Angie Rose, a dynamic music powerhouse, has paved her own road to hip-hop stardom. At a recent performance, her bold profession of faith stunned the crowd. Then it went viral on social media platforms around the globe. Angie's gut-level honesty about her personal struggles with drugs, depression, and suicide, and her bold evangelism has launched her into a largely uninhabited sphere. The Puerto Rican girl from the Bronx makes no apologies and has no regrets about using her fame to lead others to Jesus Christ. The soaring popularity of her music and the growing number of social media followers and 19 million global streams say her fans have no regrets either.
All right, well, Angie Rose, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for leaving the Bronx and coming to the East Coast of Virginia Beach. We're so happy to have you.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Of course. Well, how we found you was actually on social media. It was that video of you. Okay, tell us where you were. Like, it looked like you were in the middle of a boxing ring and you started preaching the gospel. Like, talk about that moment.
Yeah, so really funny story. The promoter of that event actually was praying, and he was like, I want to see Christian artists in a more mainstream arena. And he says, literally, he goes on social media, and I'm the first video that pops up.
Wow.
So he starts diving in and realizes that I'm, like, sharing the testimony, but also, like, you know, hip-hop, pop music. And he's like, I just DM'd you. I never expected you to respond. And I did. And I don't know, I just felt safe, and we started to talk, and he just really shared his testimony, which was intense. He lost his child and found faith.
Wow.
And just, it's obviously a lot longer, but he's like, would you come out? And I'm like, absolutely. And he's like, it's not a Christian event, but would you, like, be down to be who you are?
Yeah.
And I was like, are you telling me that I get to just be who? And he's like, yeah. So God just moved. And after that situation, that moment, people came up to me and they were like, man, I had been praying for God to reach me. I would have never thought that he would have showed up here.
Oh my gosh, at a boxing match? That is absolutely incredible. I love that. Well, let's go back to just who you are. Like, you're a Puerto Rican girl from the Bronx. You're one of 11 kids. Like, talk about, you know, what home was like growing up.
So, I mean, you know, very interesting. I was only really raised with one of my brothers.
Okay.
And he was very into, like, you know, just street culture, hip-hop, graffiti, all these things. And then my parents were pastors.
Okay,
so
you're a PK. Okay, you're a PK.
Yes,
nice.
So I literally always think about the setup of the apartment. And, like, I remember I could go to my parents' room and it'd be, like, prayer and Bible. And then I could go to my brother's room and it'd be, like, Tupac and Wu-Tang Clan. And I feel like God just used both of those because I looked up to both.
Yeah.
I wanted to be just like my brother, but I wanted to preach like my dad.
Wow.
And I just now I look back and I'm like, oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Like, God, you're very intricate.
He uses it all. He really does. Well, at what point did you, like, come to faith yourself? You know, it's one thing that your parents have that faith, but we all have to make that decision for ourselves to follow Jesus. What was that like for you?
Absolutely. So I always love telling this story because I remember being like 8 years old, and we sang the same songs. Like, it's a small church, right? A lot of, like, older people. And we sang the same songs, Joy Like a River, and Victory Is Mine, every week. And I was like, okay, we're here. And one Sunday, I was 8, and it just felt so different. And I just started to leap, and I felt like, you know, the rivers of living water. Like, I didn't get it at the time, but I'm like, I don't know what is happening inside of me, but I feel so happy. And I just am jumping in church, and I'm like, God, you're it. And I wanted to be in the Word. And then, you know, life happened a lot. When I was 15, my niece and my nephew passed away. And my sisters were both pastors. And I felt like we had some sort of special past. Like, we're in ministry. That's not supposed to happen. And God I didn't know how to, you know, swallow that pill. Like, and it kind of led me down a dark path a little bit. I didn't get too crazy. But I remember that's where the faith started to struggle. And then when I was about 18, 19 is when it's really, I just was like, I'm out of here. And then, you know, God.
Well,
but
yeah, so what happened during that time when you were 18, 19? I mean, what did you start doing? I mean, did you get into alcohol and drugs and all that?
Okay. Man, it literally, like, it was like in 14 hours, I became a whole different person.
Wow.
Like, I went from being very relatively innocent, like just secular music was my thing, and I used to feel bad, like I was like, oh, but I love it, like and then literally, like, just everything shifted. I went from never having been like drunk, never even like being in relationships, to like literally 14 hours later, everything that I had never experienced, I experienced. And I just didn't know how to get up from that. And I just stood down. Like I really, literally for 3 years after that day, never got sober.
Wow.
Like never was sober again.
Well, what was like the breaking point for you? Because you were still doing like Christian rap during that time too.
So no, I literally completely dove into the world. I actually started like selling drugs. I started just living a completely worldly life. I moved to Florida. I worked in a club as a bottle girl. But I would consistently have these experiences with God. I would like, I always rapped. I was the girl that could rap in 5th grade. Like, they'd made beats and I'd rap my little Christian verses. And so I had these verses. I never stopped writing.
Wow.
And I used to just kind of write these verses, and it was always from the heart, like, and it was be straight to God, like, just because that's the only person I could talk to. All the movement I had done, I was like, well, the only person that's been constant, the only God thing, whatever. I don't like calling God a thing. But the only experience that's been constant, the only conversation that's been constant is Him. So despite what I'm doing, I'll just keep having that conversation. And so the verses were Christian in essence, almost like David, like, this doesn't sound very Christian, like, but, and those were kind of those verses, and I used to rap them or freestyle out of the clubs, and people would join, and I'm like, this is Holy Spirit, like, I should be using this for something way better. And literally one day, I went through a lot. I went through a car accident. I experienced, like, rape. I experienced a whole bunch of different things. And I flew back to New York because everything had really fallen apart. Like, I literally spun across the highway 3 times.
Wow.
And walked out of the car, a totaled car, without whiplash.
Oh my gosh.
And still didn't, like, I'm gonna change everything. I went home. I was popping pills a lot. I really enjoyed them. And one day I took like it's called a triple stack. Like, it was a really big ecstasy pill. And I was sitting there and I was like, I don't feel anything.
Wow.
And then panic, because I was like, I haven't felt anything for 3 years. And I was like, I gotta go. Like, I was sitting behind a desk, I'll never forget, because it was like, that's the day God taught me a lesson. And I went home. My parents never changed the key, despite the fact that I had, you know, been in and out. And the piano that I played as a kid was still in the living room. Walked up the stairs and I just started, Si tan solo tocaré el borde de su manto. And literally all I was singing was, if only I touch the hem of your garment, I'll be made free. And it felt like I was living in a glass box for 3 years, and a hammer came and shattered it. And I just remember, and I was like, oh, I just breathed. I haven't done that. And then literally pictures, like a movie, but like the reel of the film. And God was like, every second, every millisecond of your life, I will use for my glory. Give it to me. And I was like, it's yours. And just tears and tears and pictures. I had a problem with a sister, and my blood sister, her number popped out of static in my mind, and I dialed it. She picks up the phone. I'm crying. Obviously, we've had loss in our family, so she's like, what's happening? Like, we immediately go to, like, something bad happened. And I'm like, please just pray. She starts praying, starts speaking in tongues, and we're just encountering the Holy Spirit. Like, it's just the most amazing moment. She literally stops and goes, I gotta hang up, in Spanish, El maestro viene. The teacher's walking in. But as she said that, I reached down and grabbed my shoes and take them off, and I hear, as she's hanging up, I hear, take off your shoes, you're now on holy ground. I start crying, 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 crying. My hair is down. I open my eyes, and I see feet. And it's over.
Wow.
Like, I'm in. Like, the experience goes from there. The story continues to change. But that moment, it marked my life.
Wow. And you haven't looked back since.
Not fully. I've kind of detoured, but he's very good about. He's like the garters on a bowling.
Yeah,
the little
that's
rails.
right.
Like, man, I threw the ball in the gutter that time, and you still.
And he still rescues us. Wow, wow. Well, Angie, gosh, I wish we could keep talking. We gotta go, but thank you so much. I'm just so grateful for you and for your life and how God is using you, and I just know He's going to continue to use you for big things, all for His glory. So I just thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for sharing your story, and you can find out more about Angie Rose through her website, Angie Rose Music. That's MUSIK.com, or you can find her on different social media platforms such as Instagram and TikTok. Again, Angie, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Key. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so we can reach more people with encouraging content like you just watched, and so you never miss a beat. See you next time, and God bless.